5 as a small branch of a larger tree, 8. Our chapter has been involved in several projects relating to education, health welfare, rural sustainability, relief and rehabilitation. I would now like to call upon the moderator for our discussion, Dr. Praveen, who is currently working as a scientist at Mylan Pharmaceuticals. He graduated with a PhD from the University of Mississippi and has worked in both academia and other pharmaceutical industries. Over to Mr. Praveen for the discussion.
Thank you, Laukia, and special thanks to Aid Morgantown for giving me this opportunity. One thing I can promise is we'll try not to be like Arnab Goswami, so I just wanted to let you know. So the first thing I'm going to do is I would like to invite the panel onto the stage. So if you want to hold on to the applause until we finish inviting everyone, you can do it all together. Okay? So once I invite the panel, then I'm going to discuss about the format of the event. So first, I would like to invite Dr. Ravi Kuchmanchi, and as Laukia said, Dr. Kuchmanchi founded AID in 1991 with a vision: problems are interconnected, so must be the solution. He finished his BTech from IIT Mumbai and PhD in physics from University of Maryland. And not many people know, but Dr. Ravi is the inspiration behind Bollywood film Swadeshh. And his thought process and his fellow members help AID raise about $1 million annually, and he mobilizes thousands of volunteers, and some of them are in the room too. So welcome, Dr. Ravi. Thank you. Next, I would like to invite Ms. Aravinda Pillalmari. Ms. Aravinda is another AID founder who is devoted to the cause of social justice. She has been a national symbol for women, and she focuses on raising awareness on fair trade and sustainable livelihoods. She works with tailors, designing and marketing khadi garments with a view to sustaining traditional living in modern times. Welcome, Ms. Aravinda. Next, I would like to invite Dr. V.K. Raju. Dr. Raju is the founder and medical director of the Eye Foundation of America, which has advanced the visual health of more than 1.7 million people in 21 countries. He is the recipient of prestigious Mahatma Gandhi Pravasi Samman Medal, an award for non-resident Indians for global achievement. Welcome, Dr. Raju. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Srinivas Nagarao Chadaram. He is the CEO and co-founder of Aura Life, and this company focuses on developing and launching natural, effective, and convenient products for personal hygiene. He finished his MBA from Duke University, one of the most prestigious business schools in the country, and he has always been inspired by the words of Mahatma Gandhi: "Be the change you want to see in the world." He was recognized for his leadership and contributions to healthcare projects, HIV awareness projects, right to information campaigns, etc. Welcome, Naga. And by the way, Naga and I, we interacted several times on Google Chat. We talked about phone, but never met in person. This is the first time I'm meeting him. Glad to see him. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Neeti Sivaneri. He is the professor of mechanical and aerospace engineering in WVU. His education is from some premier institutions. His PhD is from Stanford, MS from MIT, ME from Indian Institute of Sciences. He is the author of about 100 publications, and he has several grants to his study. Welcome, Dr. Neeti. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Vinod Kulathumani. He is the associate professor in the Department of Computer Sciences and Electrical Engineering. His research focuses on design of scalable and robust sensor actuator systems. He is known for his humble nature and is considered as a great mentor for students. He is one of the backbones of AID Morgantown. Welcome, Dr. Vinod. And we also have Mr. Savan Suri. He is the graduate student at WVU. He is the go-to person for all AID members, and he has a special interest in things related to global warming and also environment. Welcome, Savan. Sai Satish Gouda is another graduate student at WVU, and he has a great passion in filmmaking. And I don't know if some of you may have seen the movie Bahubali recently. It was directed by a person known as S.S. Rajamouli, and he gets inspired by the director, and he takes great pride because his initials and Mr. Rajamouli's initials are the same. So I just wanted to ask him the question.
This guy looks as handsome as that guy.
And then his life mostly revolves around sports, making movies spoof. You should be able to see some of his videos on YouTube, I guess. And then he's also, anything related to society, he loves it. So. And then finally, we have Dr. Saurabh Chowdhury. He just completed his PhD from WEU. Congratulations, Saurabh. And then he has been a dedicated Humble Aid member who has stood as a support throughout, and he is an active participant in culture programs. So this is the panel we have today. So I just wanted to quickly talk about the, sorry, go ahead, I'm sorry, yeah, please. So I just quickly wanted to talk about the format of the event today. So in the last few days, me and some members of the AID group, we had several brainstorming sessions. So we came up with about 12 topics or questions, I would say. Now the format would be, I will be asking specific topic or question to one of the members in the panel. So that person would be responding first. Now after that response, two other panel members, either you can support what he said or you can review. And then we will also give one opportunity to the audience. So if you want to add something to what they said, feel free to. So audience will get an opportunity for each and every topic. And of course, one other thing is, this topic is mostly focusing on NRIs staying in US. We are not talking about NRIs who wants to move back to India. So people who want to stay here but would like to contribute something to India, this is what the topic revolves around. And one thing regarding panel, there is a push button on your mic. So if you, when you're ready to talk, please press the push button. You should see the green light. And then when you're done, if you could please mute it, that would be great. Okay? And before we start, any questions, panel members or anyone?
So are we on the clock?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the time I was given was 1.5 hours, so because there are a few other things. So I have to maybe finish
The
up.
response cannot be 1.5 hours.
So,
Yeah, that was my question.
sure, yeah. I mean, these are the guys who organize the event, so I just have to do what they say. So the first question, this is for Dr. Ravi. Now, this is something which has been bothering me since a long time. So, like many of you, I finished my undergrad back in India, and then we take examinations. So on one of the days, the next day it was an exam in inorganic chemistry, and one of my friends said, "Hey Praveen, make sure you memorize how to synthesize caffeine, because that is going to appear on the exam next day." So he thought, okay, let me try that, and then I spent several hours trying to memorize how caffeine is synthesized. Then I went to the exam next day. Luckily, the question appeared on the exam. And then soon after the exam, honestly, I don't even remember a single thing about caffeine synthesis. I really don't know why I memorized it. Now, moving to 2007 and 2010, I worked as an assistant professor at MCPHS in Boston. Now, as a faculty member, I was responsible for writing the syllabus. I was responsible for teaching the course. I was responsible for writing the exam, well, preparing the question paper. I was responsible for grading the exam, and then I was responsible for giving the grades to the students. But unlike in India, you know that someone writes the exam, someone prepares the syllabus. Most of the times teachers are not in the classroom too, and then someone else grades. So the question, Dr. Ravi, is, does the education system in India, does it need serious reforms, or is it good the way it is? Now, what role do you think can NRIs play in reforming Indian education? So again, as I said, the question will be directed to Dr. Ravi, so he will be responding first. Now, two other members in the panel can accept or reject his comments, and then someone from the audience can respond to. So, yes.
Thanks a lot for inviting us here. It's really nice to see everybody. I try to give a very brief response. I think education is basically learning. So I take the question as being learning from childhood all the way up to now, to all of us. So partly, as far as the education system in India goes, it's not only the undergrad level, right? It's also the primary education or the learning at that level. So one of the things through the experience of AID that we have been thinking about is that other than the usual learning of alphabets and the math and so on and science that we would all connect with, from a rural perspective, it's also important for children to be to learn about about their rights and about the social sciences. For example, many of you would have heard about the Freedom of Information Act in the U.S., which basically like you can get information about what the U.S. government is doing. Similarly, a Right to Information Act has been passed in India, and so for example, children can learn how to file Right to Information Act applications about their village and about programs in their village. Like just like you have a science lab, you could also just learn how to use government, how to ping, various government systems, even as a rural child. And what that does is that it installs in children the ability to question the government and not just to conform, because a lot of times education system in India is about just conforming and not about questioning. So questioning the government, trying to, and questioning inequities in the society. These are things that we could introduce in the social studies class. This is something that we are thinking in our organization currently. As far as the higher education goes, and the other thing related to education is that recently Indian government also passed a Right to Education Act, and I think it missed its bus on this, because what it has essentially said is that kind of a standardized syllabus or a state-recognized syllabus should be followed in every classroom in India. And India is a very diverse country with classrooms everywhere from Adivasi villages to ordinary villages to cities, different dialects, different situations. But I think, like you said, out here you had the opportunity to set your own syllabus. It's important even at primary school level in India that kind of flexibility to set an appropriate syllabus is given, I think, to rural teachers. Then you can make learning a more organic process. Finally, as far as roles of NRIs are concerned, I think NRIs are a very influential community, and everybody looks to them. So what they do is important. But just because you are an NRI does not mean that you know what's the right solution that's needed, because oftentimes NRIs are behind driving the malls in India and driving a kind of a development paradigm which is unsustainable. So I think NRIs first also have to unlearn some of the things, learn some of the issues from the grassroots. Then I think they can, if your idea is to be an NRI that voice the concerns of the poorest Indian, then it's not necessarily, you wouldn't necessarily be the NRI who would be voicing the concerns of mainstream development. So learning what the grassroots India needs, what the Bharat needs, rather than what the India Shining needs, and then voicing their concerns, whether it's in education or other fields, I think is important.
So Dr. Ravi, so one of the things you did say is you did talk about children should be, apart from science and other things, children should be taught a little bit about laws too, so that they probably have a better understanding of
about their rights, the rights of the village people.
Sure. Okay, good. Now, anyone else on the panel, anything else you want to add to what Dr. Ravi said, or do you agree or disagree with what he said? Please.
Let me chime in. One thing that's always struck me are the textbooks from kindergarten level to college level. If you open any textbook in India, it's so boring. No pictures, no colors. It's just line after line of text. So even somebody that really motivated to study opens the book and what they do is just read a passage and memorize. I think that's where we need to start, make the textbooks more appealing, and so that they can what has improved a lot in India is the children are now technologically very savvy. So whatever the kids they do here with cell phones, I think our kids in India will also do that. So we need to combine that technological savvy with appealing textbooks. That's what my point is.
So adding technology to the existing methods of teaching.
Yeah. Okay. And one more thing, and I don't know if that's changed. It's been a long time since I studied in India. In many schools, the mode of studying is to memorize.
Yes.
And so learning by rote,
Right.
but not understanding.
Application based, yes. Okay. Okay. Now, apart from, sorry, go ahead now. Yes.
I'd like to add, I think the syllabuses and the education system has to be more inclusive of what people need. Adding on what Ravi mentioned, that we have to cater, like everybody is reading the same math, science and languages and all. But are people really aware of what would it take to grow a vegetable? Have they ever been to farms? Have they ever done any work in the farm, like have ever got their hands dirty, that they understand the value of the food that is being made? I think there has to be that such sort of inclusive education also, where people get a taste of all vocations, because what they are just learning technology or just math and science is not going to. Like all the people who have been through agriculture universities or anywhere else, are they really practicing anything that they learn, or have they really contributed to the farming sector? I mean, things like that. I think India has to look at the education from a more holistic, inclusive way, that it actually contributes to people making better choices, better sustainable choices, and better living also. And understanding where they're getting the food from, how they are grown. I mean, understanding every aspect of it, like how the cloth is being made. None of us have that. We just go buy it and feel that, okay, here we have. And it's come to a stage where people start thinking that, okay, they're getting milk is from the store and not from a cow or from where it is being produced.
So now, do you think there is any role for parents to play in this? Because most of the times, of course, I think parents generally they do focus on either becoming a doctor or engineer, but they don't talk about any other things. So,
yes.
Anyone?
I think definitely parents do have to be a good role model and also try to show them that this is not the only vocation out there. I mean, if you think about, if you go to a village these days, all the people who have gone through schools or high school, are they even there? Like nobody's there continuing the farming and all that, right? If you all think majority of us would have connections with people, like our grandparents were probably farmers and all, but our parents moved to cities, and now we have moved out of the country too. Right? I think there is a huge thing. And in fact, as you mentioned, what role NRIs play, we are actually working with project partners in India, where we are making inclusive syllabuses where kids get a chance to get their hands dirty, work on gardens, grow vegetables, I mean, learn more firsthand, and so it creates an avenue. At least the children appreciate things much better.
Sure.
And there are programs like that even in the education programs that aid supports, we are making sure that some of those things are covered.
Sure.
I have a point to add. Our education system or the setup has always been a marks-based system rather than a knowledge-based system. So when you talk about children, parents always compare about ranks and all that, and the people who have taken advantage of that and turn it into a business-centered model. So they'll be competing schools for IITs and all. Tell me, why do you need a 5th class guy to go to an IIT coaching center when he has to go to a playground? The most important thing is, it's not just education which comes from books, but an all-round personality development. The things like teamwork and the kind of motivation when people play games and all, those will be reflected later on in corporate life when he's doing a job. So, you know, parents also should understand what should be done at the right time and all that,
Sure.
and stop comparing, and, you know, give the freedom for the child to choose whatever field he wants. Whether he wants to become a singer or a doctor, but anything of his choice. You know, the system is such that first a student becomes an engineer and doctor, and then tries to become whatever he wants in life. So people should come out of that mentality. And the other most important thing is, we always base our knowledge upon books. But when we compare to people here, they have more hands-on experience. You have people in 8th grades designing robots and all. So if such things can be incorporated into educational system, and schools think about more of a knowledge-based or knowledge-centered system, that would actually enhance the child's personality and knowledge even more.
Sure. So one last, before closing this topic, I just want to give one opportunity to the audience. Please go ahead.
In general, I agree with all of those things, but you can't, as NRIs, you can't change the mindset of the people in India. They have to change that themselves. But we do, there is this notion of flip the classroom. Those of you who have seen the Khan Academy.
Yes. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's a great business. Yes.
And they're being rolled out to all kinds of schools,
Yes.
primary schools and various schools.
Right.
And the whole idea is, kids go to school
Right.
to know whether they have really understood the material. The actual learning happens at home. They sit at a laptop, see a series of YouTubes, get practical experience, actually understand the concepts, look at simulations, and they understand the material. And when they go to the school, they actually are quizzed on whether they actually did the homework of actually learning. So at school, it's simply a matter of whether they actually understood the material which they learn at home. And it's the whole notion of flip the classroom comes into play, and I think using technology and using the NRI base to support the technology as an infusion for helping out the students would be one of the approaches we can have.
Sure. Thank you very much, sir. So one last statement. I'm glad you brought up about Khan Academy. I don't know how many of you heard of it. It's one of the non-profit organizations. So that I don't have the entire history, but everything is taught through YouTube. So what he believes that he should be able to teach to anyone throughout the world. So that's the concept behind Khan Academy. So if you haven't checked it,
And Khan, by the way, has about 3,000 videos, and he's
Yes.
the only guy who actually does the video. Is an
And
unbelievable character.
it's pretty much, yeah, you have response for pretty much everything. I'm really sorry, I have to move on to the next, but you can get opportunity in the next topic. Okay, I have to move on to the next topic just in respect of time. So the second question would be to Ms. Aravinda. Now, last night, I was doing some Google search about what would be the right question to ask regarding women empowerment. Now, please accept my apologies if this appears a little rude, but when I did the Google search, the first link which I saw was, it said, Women Empowerment in India, an eye-opening website. That was the title of the link. Now, what it says is, while any other article on women's empowerment in India will take a look at our rich heritage, where women are treated as, we'll take a look at our rich heritage where women are treated as equals, the truth is that in modern India, the woman has always been a second-grade citizen, no matter what its esteemed leaders have said or done. Now, my question is, do you think the author of this article has been really harsh in what she was saying? Do you agree with her statement, his or her statement? And do you think, are we doing better in terms of women empowerment compared to what we have done a couple of years ago? So any thoughts you want to add regarding women?
Yeah, I mean, this statement. Anyway, thanks for inviting me to be on the panel. It's nice to be here. I think the statement is broad and probably I would rather not comment on
Sure.
it. But on the broader question of have things improved for women, I mean, even that's a very broad question, and I would just generally say that equality among women, men, different classes, different groups over history has its ups and downs. But so if we just look at maybe our generation and how things have changed in our lifetime, and maybe a couple of generations, I would say that overall, yes, there are many new paths that have opened, but at the same time, there are many more obstacles on those paths. And the ease of access to those paths has also, it has become more difficult for the majority of women to get the basic opportunities required to make use of those broadening, make use of the increased opportunities that have been available to women. So if you look at the whole life cycle from birth, which then includes the status of the woman giving birth, but from birth to the chance of being born, to the chance of being born healthy, to the chance of having your right to food, right to growth, right to childhood, right to education, reproductive health, choice of being married or not, sexuality of your choice, career of your choice, old age of your choice. All of these things have become more difficult for everybody, but I would say have become particularly more difficult for women in India. Even though at some level the opportunities have increased, it's more and more difficult for the majority of women to reach those opportunities and have not only full basic needs met of food and shelter, but going on to education and career, and just going on to an unlimited sense of personal dignity and being able to fulfill your aspirations in an unlimited way. I think that has become more difficult for the majority today.
So if I have to ask you, what would be the biggest obstacle for women in India
the devaluation of women from birth to old age and everything in between.
Sure. Anyone else on the panel here wants to say something to what Ms. Aravinda said? Or?
Let me say just one sentence. He said about the devaluation.
Right.
70% of the girls below the age of 8 are anemic in India. Just I'll repeat it again. 70% of the girls below the age of 7 or 8 have anemia. When there is anemia, they are exposed to so many infections. You can die in incredible things. Anemia is just a basic thing. Basic nutrition, basic things. And the first common chronic disease in children is, do you know what is it? Chronic health problem in children. Number one, what is? Number two is diabetes. 12,000 children die each year because of the diabetes. They all can be done, something can be done just like that, that can be that easy. What is the first one? The commonest health problem in children in India, number one. Still malnutrition. We are one step below sub-Sahara. But we don't like to hear things like this because they get upset. Oh yes, you are making such a negative. One guy said in a panel, Raju, you are making so many negative. This is not negative statements. Dharma and the concept of facing the facts. There's no other culture than Indian culture, facing the facts. So think about it, we'll go a little bit back. Yeah.
And Dr. Raju, one thing I want to add is India tops the world in terms of the hunger. In terms of number of children dying from hunger, number of people who are hungry, India tops the world. So instead of giving an opportunity
Yes,
to all
the fatty children are increasing the numbers.
Right.
1 in 5
Yeah.
children in Delhi private schools are obese or overweight. Delhi not public schools, private schools. The same thing, both things are happening the same way. Just like in this country, there are some problems at the same time, the other side. Go ahead, yeah.
So now, before I give a second chance to one of the panel, because we have more women sitting on the audience, so I want to give 2 opportunities to anyone. If you want to ask any question to Ms. Aravinda, or if you have anything to say.
I'll just make a quick comment. I think there are 2 Indias. There's middle class, upper middle class. They are doing very well generally. They can manage their children, they get a good education. But then there's the poor people. They get a poor education, all the problems with malnutrition and all that. So I think, my family, my relatives, I would say either middle class or middle class. We sort of moved out of the lower class many years back. So they do pretty well, but I think the poor people have a very hard time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wants to say anything?
I think there are many female students.
Exactly, that's the reason why I want, if someone wants to say something, this is an opportunity for you to speak. Yeah, so before we move on to the next topic, I'll just give an opportunity to Dr. Ravi and then, sorry,
We
go ahead.
also have to address what NRS can do.
If you could, yeah,
But
sure.
I'll
Sure,
take my-
yeah.
Yeah, regarding, actually I wanted to make a comment on what NRIs can do and seeing the young people out here. So one of the things is that the NRI community still charges the maximum amount of dowry. So in India, so it's not, not something we should laugh at.
No, that's a good point, yeah.
It is something which is in all our hands, right? Many young people are here. So I think taking a stand not to give dowry, taking a stand that, if you are having an intercaste marriage, to go through with it and convince your parents and just taking responsibility for your own marriage and not just leaving it as a helpless person to your parents to make that decision. I think those would go in a long way in empowering women because finally what sets the scale for dowry in India are the NRIs and the IS officers who charge the maximum amount of dowry. So I think that, and also treating women, there are a lot of women's issues in the US in the NRI community. So being sensitive even after marriage to your girl child and to women, to your spouses, in a family, I think it's important.
Serving the closing statements on this topic before we
Sure,
go to the
I
next one.
thought that the second part of the
Sure,
question
sure.
was about the role of NRIs, and the first point I was also going to raise, was that of dowry, simply because one has made it through all the hurdles and and achieved a certain level of economic success, it doesn't mean that we are immune to sexism, or that, we're practicing gender equality. In fact, the more we learn about gender equality, the more sensitive we are to things happening in our homes, in our universities, then we see how much more distance we have to go. So, for example, one thing, if I may say so.
Sure, sure.